Hey, welcome to my table. My name is Daniel Stombaugh, and I'm just a guy who's identified how loved and adored I am by God. It is my passion and my purpose in life to help everyone I meet understand their place of value to God and their place in the kingdom of God. And so we're here on day number 15 of our devotional Solomon Song. It's our 90-day devotional that we're going through that breaks down the Song of Solomon into 90 individual love letters from God. And so we're in this day 15, and we're in a section of the journey of this relationship dynamic that we're watching unfold in front of us about the shepherd girl and the king. And it's a direct mirror for our own journey with God. If you notice, a lot of the things that she's already encountered just within the last 15 days are things that you and I encounter with on a daily or even weekly, monthly basis with God. In fact, as we looked at some of these over the past 15 videos here, more than likely you've seen something come up and say, you know what, I have felt like that with God, or maybe I feel like that right now with God. And when you see that relationship dynamic play out, what you're seeing is a mirror of what God is doing within our hearts and with you and with me. And so day number 15, we were just talking how they were just kind of went in the garden. They went to this little tour of the garden, and Solomon was very expressive. He took time to point out things about the garden to help her understand, his bride to understand how he felt about her. And he used a rose, and he used the garden itself and all the elaborate details that took place in order to have that garden. And he compared her to the garden. And then we saw her take a step in that identity. And when the more time you spend in relationship with God, the more you are going to see yourself start to adopt certain phrases. You're going to stop certain mentalities and mindsets that only come from a learned expression from God for you. And you're going to start to step into that. And you'll be given choices today. Do I operate in what I know that he said about me, or do I operate in how I feel about myself? And so we saw her take a step, and she said, I'm the rose of Sharon. And then we saw him quickly follow up with that. And he talked about the lily among the thorns. He talked about her uniqueness to him. And that was the last video. So here we are. As she's spoken about, I'm the lily among the thorns, then we see Solomon begin to speak to her back, and he talks to her about, you stand out from the thorns. The thorns make you stand out, and the very things that you think that you lack value of because you're not like these things, those are the qualities that you don't have cause you to stand out to me. And then she follows right up with him. Now she's going to start to do something right here in today's passage that you're going to start to see this pattern develop through her life, and we see it start right here. And the cool thing is the more time you spend in relational contact with God, the more time you're going to start to claim his promises for you, and you're going to start to speak back to God his own promises that he makes to you in the relationship. And it's only promises that come from a fact of relational growth that you have with him. And so it's really cool to see this play out because it's such a mirror of our own journey. So day number 15, Song of Solomon chapter 2 and verse number 3, and let's read that. She said, as the apple tree among the trees of wood. Now understand this, they're in the garden still. They're making their way back out of the garden. She's compared herself to a rose. He says that she's a lily among the thorns. As they're walking, she is looking for ways to talk to the king, and she's like, I'm going to do something here that he does with me. I'm going to point out an image to him that he reminds me of. And that is cool because she wasn't doing that before. Remember, she was so focused in the first chapter about self. She was so focused about her own disworth to God. And she was so focused about all the ways she didn't measure up. And now that same energy that was spent focused on self is now spent focused on how can I relay my heart to him? How can I relay my heart to the king? And this is a journey, learned process. And as you journey with God, you're going to start to understand that energy that we focus so much on, I'm unworthy for this and I don't deserve that, we just accept his scandalous grace for us, and then we start to refocus that energy into reflecting him. And that is what it's all about when you see it. So she's talking to him. She says, as an apple tree among the trees of wood, so is my beloved among the sons. And then she goes on to say this. She just has stated the fact that you are unique to me, and this is why. All the other people, all the other men are trees of this certain variety, but you are this type of tree. And she's trying to, in her own way, she's trying to say, will you stand out to me too? And lily among the thorns, it made her feel a certain way, and she's like, well, you stand out to me too, and this is how you are like that. And so she brings it. Then she says this, I sat down under his shadow with great delight. Why would you have delight in the shadow of a tree? Check this out. And his fruit was sweet to my taste. Now I love this part of it because this is it's romantic, but it's also borderline sensual. I'm a words guy, and so I read this and it's like, oh, it's awesome. But she's saying, look, you're like an apple tree to me, and you gotta understand that. This is because. Why was he like an apple tree? Why not say, Solomon, you're like a magnolia? Thou art like a sturdy pine. Why not say any other tree? Why the apple tree? Man, because an apple tree offers several things that the other trees cannot offer. An apple tree offers shelter. Think about this now. Look at a palm tree. Look at an apple tree. The apple tree offers shelter. The shelter provided her with a sense of security. And the apple tree also offered her fruit, satisfaction. She was saying, Solomon, you are like unlike any other tree I've ever seen. You stand out to me because you give me shelter. I feel safe with you. And you are very satisfying to me. It was her way of trying to speak to Solomon in a way that described all the things that he had been to her. I love that. God is not just our shelter. We know that God is our protective covering. He's our shelter, and he envelops us, right? We know that. We read passages where it says that you are in the palm of my hand, and I'm not going to let you go. We read passages of what shall separate us from the love of Christ, shall death or poverty, all the different things it lists off, and then we read those kind of passages, and we have this understanding deep down inside. We may not feel safest all the time, but we know deep down inside we have peace in the fact that we are safe with him. We can be safe with him. We can trust him with our feelings. Even though they may be hurtful, we can trust him with those feelings. We're safe. But then also to know that he's our security, he's our protector, he's our defender. I love it in Psalms where David calls God many times, you're my shield, you're my buckler, you're my high tower, you're the horn of my salvation. He says that you are my defender. And I don't have to worry about defending myself. And the times that I get myself the most hurt and the most in trouble, I can usually trace it back to those are the times that I've tried to actively defend myself. And he says, you don't have to defend yourself. I don't have to defend myself, Solomon. You are my defender. And then she goes on and she goes into this physical aspect. She says, and you're also extremely satisfying to me. Now, have you ever bitten into an apple before? I mean, there's people that either love apples or you hate apples. I've never met anyone who's just like, apples are okay. Some people are like, I can't stand apples. And some people are like, I love apples. I love the smell of apples. I love baked apples and cooked apples. And the Forrest Gump, you got your fried apples, you got your baked apples, you got your cooked apples, and they have all these little ways to eat apples. And man, one thing's undeniable. When you take a bite out of an apple, it is like, as Kramer on Seinfeld would say, it's a circus in your mouth. It's like it floods you with this flavor, and it's like, bam! It just hits you right in the face with this strong flavor. And she was like, you satisfy me. When you are with me, when you touch me, it satisfies me. It brings back this rush of adrenaline. It's very satisfying for her. And she's like, Solomon, you are this to me. You're my shelter. You're my security. And you are my satisfaction. We make some crazy decisions in life because we try to fill those three needs. And we look for people to fill that stuff in our hearts. We look for people to fill us with our security. There are people that will go to unbelievable lengths to find security in another person. They'll humiliate themselves in order to feel secure with a person. There's a sheltering ability. When I look for people to provide me a shelter in the hard times in my life, now, I'm not saying you don't have friends you don't rely on, or you have that person that you can call, the phone a friend, believe me, when things go wrong for me, if the car breaks down or something happens, I have people that I can call, and I love that I can. But truth is, God is my shelter. Those people are awesome to have in your life, but God is your shelter. He is my shelter. When it's all said and done and the dust settles, I only have one source of shelter, and that's God. I only have one source of security. Maybe put all the security systems you want to and get the best job that you want to, with the best 401k and the best pension package you want to. But truth is, either God's your security or he's not. And that satisfaction, man, people change. People break, people leave, people do some crazy stuff. People hurt you. So to tie your satisfaction from life out of a person is unfair to that person. You're demanding them to be something they were never designed to be. My shelter, my satisfaction, and my my shelter, my security come from God. So God is not just our shelter, He's our source for satisfaction. And as you learn of Him, you clearly see He is everything that you have ever desired in your life. He is the person He is the source that gives you your affirmations, a source that gives you your love and your desire. So here's the question: in what ways has God proven Himself to be your shade, your shelter? How has God been your shelter? What has He sheltered you from? And think about that today. In what ways has God proven to be your security? Think about that for a minute today. Think about how He was your shelter. Think about how He's your security. And think about how God has been your satisfaction. Looking back in your relationship with God, looking back at all the times that you have felt satisfied with Him, then these are all the times in my life that I actually went out trying to find those things in someone, in people, places, and things. This is where that left me, but this is how I found that in God. That is awesome. That is today's day number 15. Now, our next video we get together, they're going back to dinner because, physical action usually works up an appetite, and they're like going back for more Chinese food because they just made love, and so they're going back to dinner. And when they're at dinner again, when they're eating at the table again, the bride makes a statement about the dinner. She makes a statement about where she is seated. She makes a statement about the whole environment. And when you see this, it is such a powerful picture of that shade, that shelter, and that satisfaction. So when you get to this, we're going to enter in a whole nother segment of her experience with Him, another step in the journey with Him that you don't want to miss. So dinner is next time. Hope you have a fantastic day today. Thank you for joining with me, and we'll see you in the next